When we start a presentation here at Royal Roads University, we always want to acknowledge the traditional lands that we are on. So the campus is located on the Lakwagan and Kosapsan families and nation, also known as the Sunhi and Esquimalt. So it's really with deep gratitude that we learn, play, live here on those lands. And I really encourage you to reflect, maybe ground your feet, and just take a brief moment to acknowledge the land that you're on, all the history, all the past, present, and future coming together on those lands. If you know the traditional lands that you're joining us from today, feel free to enter it in the chat as well. Thank you. We're here today all excited to talk about the Master of Arts, Graduate Diploma, and Graduate Certificate in Interdisciplinary Studies. With me, I have Dr. Joe Axe, who is the program head and professor. I have also some guest speakers. I'm very excited to hear from them. We have Stephanie Johnson and Christopher Spencer, who are newly grads, so about a year graduate now from the program from Royal Roads University. And myself, as I said, Nancy Prévost-Maurice, I'm an education specialist at Royal Roads University, doing a lot of student recruitment. In the back scene, we have Rhonda White, who is with our enrollment services. So Rhonda will kindly add a lot of links for you to follow, and we'll share those links with the recording for you for sure. And I also have my colleague Ariana that is available for any tech support, any question you might have in the chat. She will make sure to monitor this today. So thank you again. And I see people are introducing themselves. Thank you, thank you. And the agenda for today, we'll talk about Royal Roads University. And maybe just to know, can you use your reaction button and give me a little thumbs up if you come to campus before? Because I know we have people register from everywhere in the world, but maybe if you know Royal Roads already, you can just use your reaction features there. So we'll talk about Royal Roads, a little bit about the program for sure. I know many of you are here for that reason. We'll hear from our graduates. We want to spend time with them, knowing about their experiences. We'll talk about application process and requirement, and we will question you might have. And as we go through the session, please ask questions in the chat as well, as we want the session to be very interactive. So we'll make sure to get to the question as we can. And as we get started, why Royal Roads University? Why explore our institution? You might be at different stages in your life, thinking about going back to school. So here are 5 bullet points of why Royal Roads, and I'm sure the graduates will have things to add to this. But we see life as a qualification. So this is something we're really proud at Royal Roads, is the admission process. So we will always consider who you are as a whole. So where you're coming from, where you are today, and where you want to go in the future. So it's kind of a holistic approach from day one, from your admission process to your enrollment. Prof, who know your name, and I'm sure some people can attest. I'm doing a master at Royal Roads right now, and it's very phenomenal to be able to connect with our instructors, and they know who we are. So we're not in a big cohort of 200 people just being called by a number. It's very personal, and that brings a lot to the experience. Learning based on life. So what you experiment, because Royal Roads University, we're mostly a university for working professionals. So I was chatting with the grads earlier, so they were sharing their experiences and how they met so many different people throughout the program, throughout the courses. And this is what is very good, is that you can bring what you learn, what you face in the workplace, and bring it into the classroom to discuss with your instructors and the cohort. So there's really not that disconnection. So it's really bringing theory and practice together in every course. Connection for life. We have a beautiful network of thousands of alumni, people you meet in your cohort, even if that program you don't have a specific cohort, but you will meet students in many courses. And most of the time you will stay in touch with them, maybe on LinkedIn or doing some alumni events after. So it's really those people are there to support you throughout the journey and after. We were built differently. As I quickly said, we were built for working professional. We have been doing online learning for more than 25 years now. So it's very something different, not something we had to pivot to during COVID, but really something that we have been doing for many, many years. So the learning, teaching model and learning model is very relevant to the world that we live now. And just a few pictures here. I know the program where we'll talk about is mostly online, so you might not have to come to campus, but maybe as Christopher and Stephanie were mentioning, you might come to campus for your graduation, which is always a very exciting time. And a few pictures of what is Railroad renowned for, I would say. On the top left, we have the Hatley Castle. That was, believe it or not, a house that was built for a retirement house. But it's a castle. It was built in 1908, and sometimes we have events there. We have some classroom. You can wander around. On the top right, you can see the trail. So we have 565 acres of land. So you can always walk, run, bike on campus as you come. If you have some on-campus course, you can go for a walk maybe at lunchtime. That's what I try to do when I work on campus. The beautiful Esquimalt Lagoon at the bottom left. This is a bird sanctuary, so very peaceful to go there. And on the bottom right, just a reminder, we do online learning for many years and we're really good at it. And we have people from, I think, coming from more than 80 countries. So students from everywhere in the world will be joining you in the program. And if you have any question, I see some in the chat, I'll get back to them. And we're really proud to be a Changemaker campus. So if you want to Google Ashoka U, this is an accreditation that we have. Only a few institutions in North America have that. And it's all about innovation, social entrepreneurship, and really to support people to think outside the box and really create change in the world. And I hope just in a few minutes, I gave you a little taste of Railroads, and now I will pass it to Joe for more information on the program.
Thank you so very much, Nancy. That was a lovely introduction to the university. Yeah, my name's Joe Axe. I've been at university since the year 2000, so I've been around for quite a long time. I'm also a graduate of Railroad University myself. So I went on and did a PhD after I had finished my master's programs. So anything is possible. And what I'm going to do is just walk us through what interdisciplinarity means to our students, and I'll talk a little bit more about the program after this. So what our students come into the MAIS program oftentimes is looking for solutions to how do we address these complicated problems, not just by looking through the lens of one discipline, so not looking through the lens of communications or leadership, but combining all those different understandings and disciplinary tools to look at complex problems that are happening in the workplace at the moment. So if you are one of those people who is looking at your workplace, looking at the world, and thinking you want to look at it from more than one perspective, more than one discipline, this is a wonderful way to do that. You can pick programs, pick courses from multiple different schools throughout the university, different programs throughout the university, and come up with those solutions that will really help in the workplace and in life. So we're also people who are looking creatively. So one of the things we all often talk about is critical thinking, but the next step from that is creative thinking. So what is it that you can do to build something new that's different with the tools that you see available to you? So that's one of the wonderful things you can do in the MAIS program. I'm just looking to see if I can actually forward those myself. I may or may not be able to. So our students, as you can see, I'm not going to read the list, but there are a lot of different areas that our students are coming in from their workplaces, bringing in the depth of skills and experience. And one of the things I know I've heard from students is they learn so much in the classroom from each other. And it's a wonderful place to engage in those conversations about things that are different, especially if you're a MAIS student, because you're going into different courses and taking understandings from those different courses and different programs that you're moving into and out of. So one of the things I do like to point out, though, is the last one. Everybody has this in common, lifelong learners. So one of the things that we pride ourselves at RU is people are here engaged in their learning, wanting to find out more, got this deep inquisitive approach to looking at the course content, their assignments and things like that. So that lifelong learners is super important. And yeah. All right, so there are a couple of different options to you that are available. You may be here looking at the Master of Arts in Interdisciplinary Studies, but you can also have a look at doing a graduate certificate in Interdisciplinary Studies or a diploma in Interdisciplinary Studies. And each of those ladders into the master's program. So if you do the graduate certificate, you'd only be doing 9 credits. And there are 3 core courses that you take, whether you're doing the certificate, the diploma, or the master's. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute, but you would be taking those in the certificate. Once you've done those 3 core courses, you've then got your graduate certificate. If you decided you wanted to do a diploma, you would take the 3 core courses. You can then add on 3 electives, so from areas of your choice and something that you may be personally very interested in, you could add electives from that area, and then you could end up with a graduate diploma in interdisciplinary studies. And as I mentioned, all of those can actually then ladder into the MA. All right, so I do actually have control over the, thank you, Nancy. So this is a wonderful little tool that we use to explain what our program looks like. And I have to give credit to Willem, who is not unfortunately able to be with us today. He's on vacation, well-deserved vacation. So what this does is it captures the course, looks at the program, lets you have a look at the various different options for the pathways through the program, and just summarizes quite nicely what it means to be taking the MAISE program, what the total credits are, etc. So if we look at the big circle on the left-hand side, you have 3 core courses that I mentioned earlier. You have courses in writing critical thinking, you have courses in theory, and you also have a course in interdisciplinary studies, frameworks and that sort of background content. So those are foundational courses to the program. Whichever various options you decide to take, you'll all take those 3 courses. Prior to that, you'll actually be taking, I think it's a 2-week, it's called MAISECon. And what you do is you develop a learning community with the other students who are coming into the MAISE program through that 2 weeks. So you actually have a foundation as you're going into the program, knowing other people who are taking the same 3 courses you're taking, and some of them will be branching out and taking other courses that you might be taking as well. So you have a bit of a familiarity with people. You go through some exercises and start building that learning community that you have as you proceed through the MAISE program. So if you take option 1, you could choose to do a purely online course-based program without having to come onto campus. Even though, as Nancy mentioned, you may wish to come on for graduation, you don't have to come on to take any of your courses. So if you do that one, everything's online. You get to take the 3 core courses plus 9 electives, and you've got your graduation requirements completed. If you take option 2, you're going to include a residency. So you could come onto campus for up to 2 weeks. Usually it's a 10-week course, so there'll be pre-work, campus work, and post-work. Many of those include taking 3 courses simultaneously at the same time. So you need to block off a fairly significant part of your calendar for the 2 weeks on campus, where you're going to be doing a lot of work with other folks in the program. Then you could take online courses to complete your program. So that's still course-based, but it would allow you to come onto campus if you wish to do that. The third one is you can take research options. We have a couple of those available at the moment. There's thesis research option, and we have the research paper option. Thesis is 12 credits, so that's quite a substantial amount of work that you'd be doing, and it allows you to do a really deep dive into something that's super fantastically interesting to you and that you want to learn a lot more about, and do some primary research. So talk to people through interviews, focus groups, or maybe do a survey, that type of thing. If you want to do something slightly smaller, but you're still interested in research, you can do the research paper. So that's only 6 credits. And at the moment, that requires just doing literature. So you would not necessarily have to do any primary research, talk to people, or do surveys. You would just be looking at literature to answer a question that you might have, but still bringing in those research topics that are interesting to you. And you'd also add some online elective courses to complete your programs with either of those options. So that, in summary, if you look on the left-hand side, it says MAISE degree, total of 36 credits, 27 credits for electives. Most of the courses are 3 credits that we have throughout the university. So no matter where you're taking your courses, you'll find they're usually 3 credits. And you'll be working with our program staff. They can help you find a schedule that works for you, which incorporates the courses that you're interested in. And there is an option to transfer in some credits, which we can talk about in a second. So, as I mentioned, this is a nice transitionary piece. You can transfer in up to 12 credits in the MAISE, into MAISE program. They would have to be graduate level. And obviously that's not everybody gets to do that. It's kind of, we look at the file, we look at the courses, see if they are appropriate, and hopefully 12 credits. If you've already taken some master's level courses, you may be able to do that. There are many certificates, graduate certificate options. Some of those offer additional capacity to take something through another organization. So if you look at the three we've pulled up: project management, change management, and child professionals in HR. So there are you can take some of the courses at RU. It gives you a fast track towards another professional credential, and you could also use that to come into the MAISE program. So that's just an example of a couple of three ones that we have set aside. So I think what everybody would love to do is listen to people who've actually gone through the program. And so I'm going to hand it over to Nancy, and she's going to guide you through those discussions with our wonderful graduates.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Joe. And I'll just spotlight our two speakers. Here we go. And awesome. Maybe we can start with Stephanie and Christopher, just introducing yourself, first of all. Yeah, I'll let you go in popcorn order when you want.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm here on Snuneymuxw territory, and I'm really grateful to Nancy and Joe for inviting me to come speak today to potential students. It's really good to see everyone.
Hey everyone, I am Chris. I am in Vancouver. Also happy to, help you navigate this process. It can definitely be a difficult one to figure out grad programs and what's right for you. So happy to speak about my experience, and hopefully it helps someone.
That's wonderful. And one question we get often from prospects is, what drew you to the program at Railroads? And maybe as you answered that, maybe you can let us know which stream you took of the option we saw with Joe, and maybe what was kind of the main topic of MAISE, because it can go different ways. So if you don't mind sharing that with us.
Yeah, I can start.
Sure.
I don't have an undergraduate degree, and I'm a working professional. So I've owned my own consulting business 20 years with a business partner. And I always felt, I was working in universities. I work across Canada with credit unions and First Nations. I do a lot of different innovative projects. And I kind of hid that fact that I didn't have a degree. I was a self-taught person. And so I went to a prominent funeral of the late Dr. Ellen White. She was Auntie Ellen to me in Snuneymuxw territory. And the 4-day funeral, many from all over the world, her past students and relatives, shared the story about how important education is. And I felt over those 4 days of that funeral that they were speaking directly to me. And the late Auntie Ellen and the late Ruby Peters, two prominent Hulkaminum speaking aunties in this territory, they used to take the bus over the hump to UVic to take their degree. And I said to them, and they were in their late 40s and 50s at that time. And at the end of those 4 days, I was turning 50 myself. And I said, I'm going to give myself the gift of education. And I had many friends that had gone to Royal Roads, very much like Joe. Later on, they went and got PhDs through Royal Roads, and I had heard many good things. And I knew it's one of the universities that look at your work experience and do an evaluation to see if you can skip the undergrad based on your work experience. And I remember being really nervous, quite shy about this fact. And I marched myself down to Royal Roads, and I met the chair of the MAISE department. I booked a meeting with Joe, who was before you.
It would have been Jagras was straight before me, but we've had Matt Hines. We've had a lot of different folks.
Matthew Hines.
Yeah.
It was Dr. Hines. And I pulled out my portfolio and I explained everything that I had done, and I showed him written work and my research, and and Dr. Hines at that time says, we would be honored to have you come be a student at Royal Roads. And so I immediately signed up, and I've got to say the whole program itself, everyone is just incredibly helpful. And I ended up doing the research stream. But I didn't know that in the beginning. I just began. And I just want to let you know, if anybody is feeling a little overwhelmed by all the different options that are available to you, you can just begin and feel your way through it. And as you're progressing, you can choose, and you can even change your mind when you're in the program. You can bounce back and forth. The staff, they're truly amazing, and they'll explain to you what that looks like and how to pour it into different programming. But for myself, I began, and I knew I wanted to do this solely for me, not for my career. I wanted to do something that was really meaningful to the work that I do, both professionally and in my role as a volunteer. And so I began, and I did the courses, and then I did a major project at the end. So I'm happy outside of this to chat with anybody about what that looked like for me.
Awesome, Stephanie, thank you for sharing. Kind of like you, I went into it and didn't know if I was going to do course-based or a thesis or a research project. So I can echo that you can definitely just jump in and then navigate that process as you go. I guess for me, what sort of drew me to the program, to be honest, I never imagined doing graduate studies. Working in film production, which is my background, I had some amazing mentors, production managers and producers, and I learned everything I knew about film, from budgeting to management and more from them. And from what I could see, most of the media industry wasn't too concerned about credentials, right? If you worked hard, you did well at it, you always had the next film waiting. But 10 some odd years later, starting a family, looking for a more sort of traditional 9 to 5 with stable hours, and I sort of started to think a bit. I've always been a believer in lifelong learning, both formally and informally, in whatever way one can within their means. So after plugging away at a certificate in professional communication, I started to think about an MA. So speaking with a couple friends, one of them, a very well-known female director, she's done some amazing TV commercials, broadcast award-winning docs. It turned out she went to Royal Roads and absolutely loved her experience. Speaking with a couple others, another friend of mine, a manager at a advertising firm here in Vancouver, also went to Royal Roads and loved his experience. So that's when I started to look at Royal Roads a bit more closely. And I work at a unusual nexus where business meets advertising and advertising meets film production. And there aren't really too many programs out there, that suit exactly what I'm trying to do. So Maze looked really interesting. I was able to build a program that sort of fit my personal needs for a career. Yeah, I think that's sort of what drew me to Royal Roads.
That's awesome, Christopher. And what courses did you take related to what you're doing?
So I focused on communications. That was my sort of main focus, but I filtered in everything from intercultural communication to project management and things like that as well. So yeah, a whole range.
Thank you. And what about you, Stephanie? Sorry if I missed the info.
Yeah, like Christopher, I did the same. I took intercultural competencies. I took the new electives that were offered through Maze. So the LGBTQ one and the outdoor education. Even though I wasn't a teacher, it totally applied to the work I'm doing. Yeah, and then of course all the core courses that are required. And then I dove right into my research, which I loved. I had I chose my own thesis advisor, who I knew is also a teacher at Royal Roads in the communications department. who is interested in my topic, which is reconciliation and land-based governance. Yeah, so it's completely flexible. I also want to point out too, for myself, I wanted to read only from Indigenous perspective and Indigenous paradigm. That was very important to me. And every single teacher worked with me to either, I had to do maybe double the reading at sometimes, but also that flexibility that they would amend some of the content so that fit my need. And I really appreciated that.
That's a very good point. Thanks for pointing that out. Yeah. And as we discussed a little bit before the meeting started, what was what concern did you have about returning to school? Because I think both of you were working, family, all the things to manage.
Yes, definitely. Why don't I start this one off and then I'll hand it back over to you. I'll keep it short. Did I have concerns about returning to school? Of course, without a doubt. I was a single income father with 2 kids under the age of 4, a full-time job. Could I do it all? Truthfully, I don't know, right? But yeah, I think opportunities like education, regardless of financial barriers, the lack of sleep it may cause, the extra stress, are worth everything you put into them. Professional growth aside, they allow you to grow personally and enrich your understanding of the world around you. And for me, I sort of wanted to do it, for my kids, show them that it's possible, yeah. So yes, I absolutely had concerns, but I think until you jump in there, you just don't know. And, you will figure a way to do it. And, the folks at Rose have been very helpful in sort of navigating that process. So, yeah.
I love that you said that, because everything you said mirrored how I felt too, with the exception of having 2 children under 4. I have two adults over 80 that live with me that I take care of. So I like you, I work more than full time, and I was scared I couldn't do it. I was scared I was going to waste my money. I was scared that I was going to begin and then quit because I couldn't hack the workload on top of my self-employment workload, which can be probably very much like you. You're juggling multiple projects at once, and schoolwork just seemed like, I'm not getting paid for it. I'm actually the one paying for it. But holy, am I ever glad I did it. It's been enriched my life in many, many ways. And my single piece of advice to new students is don't look at the whole, look at each week to start. And, week by week, that's how I got through. Because sometimes I felt like very overwhelmed by the workload. So I took that pressure off myself and just looked week by week. And I took a little longer to finish my MAISE program. A lot of students do it in 18 months. I took 2.5 years, and I'm okay with that. I did one course at a time. I never staggered courses because I knew I wouldn't be successful time-wise.
Stephanie, I also took 2.5 years to finish my program. Again, just that difference between having the job and the kids, and
yeah,
I'm a little crazy, and I also directed a TV broadcast documentary at the same time on top of my job and studies. But that's where they let you sort of help shape that program around your working professionals, right? And so you do it in 18 months or 2.5 years, it'll work out, right?
Yeah, really good advice.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, because someone in the chat was asking about how does it work for course. So as you just mentioned, it's mostly 10-week course back to back. Sometimes you have a little break in between. So that's what you have been doing, and not 2 courses at a time, for those who were asking. Yeah.
And those breaks are important. And there's things that you're going to say no to. I don't know about you, Christopher, but my back was kind of sore at the end of it because you're sitting and reading and writing a fair bit. And if you have a job that you're sitting at, I probably should have got up more and walked around more.
A personal question is almost, what do you do with all that free time now? How do you enjoy that? Working on your personal project and professional project.
I've got another documentary in the works, so I've just
Oh.
filled it all back up. Yeah. Yeah. I
that's
still have no
amazing.
free time. Yeah.
You just get more projects on the go. And what would you say was your most surprising part of the program? It can be something personal or a course or an instructor.
You want to go first?
Sorry, Nancy, I missed your question because I was reading the chat
You were in the
there.
chat. Yeah, I see that we have some question coming
yeah.
up. What was the most surprising part of your experience? And
The
when I
most-
say that, sometimes grad will be like, oh, that was an instructor or a teamwork I did, or can be very diversified. Yeah.
Sure, yeah, I'll start this one, and then I can answer that message in the chat too. This is going to sound funny, but the most surprising part about my experience was actually the program associate, Debbie, who regularly checked in with me. So my elective program was entirely online. I don't know if I mentioned that yet. Which one I really didn't get the same sort of cohort vibe that I heard other people in the classes talking about who did on-campus studies. They all raved about how great it was to do studies on campus. But I think I mentioned because of the wide variety of classes, I also rarely saw the same people online. And so having Debbie reach out consistently with just a genuine sense of interest in how I was doing really made me feel valued. And importantly, is just sort of touch on what we were saying earlier, when I was trying to decide whether to do a course-based completion, a major research project, or a thesis. Everyone on the team, connected with me, helped me connect with other people to explore my options, given my film background. I was exploring a documentary research project, and so they connected me with potential supervisors who had film experience. It just made me feel really, taken care of and sort of helping to make that decision. Ultimately, I didn't pursue the research project for a few different reasons, but just having the team there to support and navigate you through that process was really helpful. Stephanie, how about yourself?
Oh, I'd have to say mine was more personal. Oh boy, I'm the first to graduate from higher education in my family. And I don't think I believed in myself in the beginning, and it really surprised me just how much liberation I feel at the end of it. And again, I did it for myself for no other reason, and it was the best experience. I'm so glad I did it. Yeah, it's paving a way for those that are younger than me and our future children, I feel, in our family.
Very true. Thank you so much. Someone in the chat is asking, did you know your end goal employment when you started?
Mine was just to get that piece of paper to validate myself.
Yeah.
The end result. But no, I think it grew as I grew in the program. As and another key learning too was it wasn't as hard as I made it out to be. I always felt like university would be this really unattainable thing. I never really saw myself reflected in higher education. I've had more street smarts, more self-taught, and I was really surprised by that. It's doable. It's doable. You can be a single parent. You can be, stretched thin and give this gift to yourself. It's totally doable. It's not as hard as one might make it out in your mind. I didn't know what a paradigm was when I started. You'll get that real quick, like.
Yeah, those first couple courses that they throw you into definitely shake your world a little bit. You know, you realize how much you don't actually know.
Yeah.
To answer that question in the chat about did you know your end goal employment when you started, I still don't know what my end goal for employment is, to be honest. I think it was you know, pursuing it for the sake of learning and pursuing it, right? Education isn't just about, you know, facts and theories and tools. It's also about learning sort of how to think. And I think that was important for me. It wasn't necessarily sort of an end goal of employment. It was about, you know, pursuing education for education's sake.
Yeah. Someone's
And I-
asking about the application process. It's pretty easy. Steps are outlined and staff are there to help you get applied. They want you to come to university.
Yeah,
I'm
thanks
trying
for
to
that
think.
question, Emily. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think back to my application process. I remember I had a whole bunch of, I probably still have them, but like all my documents of what letters of recommendation and, you know, going back to find my old credentials and all of that. It was, you know, I think the hardest part was writing my cover letter. Just trying to, you know, summarize my, you know, life experience into 2 pages or something. But no, the application process itself is straightforward.
Yeah.
I like that you both touch base also on the creativity. I think that Joe was referring. It's critical thinking, but it brings kind of you to think differently at the end. And I guess you apply that in the workplace or even like on personal levels.
Yeah. I think education provides a framework for you to think within, and that ability to read from many different perspectives, sift through vast amounts of information, and then find innovation within that to apply to your own life. That's what's brilliant. It provides a framework for you to think more deeply in whatever it is you're doing, whether it's your work or your life or watching the news for that matter. Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah, I think Joe said something earlier about how, you know, programs like this help creative thinkers to find, you know, new solutions for traditional challenges. And in my experience, she's entirely on point with that comment. You know, it was impossible for me to find a program that blended business management and communications and intercultural communication and more all in one. You know, but a program like Maze sort of, you know, lets you figure that out. And, you know, it really helps you think outside of the box and get different perspectives. So, yeah.
Thank you both. And if anyone in the chat has more question, or Joe or people behind the scene, if you have any question, the last one I had prepared based on what people share with me before the session. And I know you have been talking a lot about it, but what would be maybe your recommendation to anyone considering this program right now? And I know you did it a little bit, but if you think of like almost one thing that you can share of someone is being like, oh, should I apply or not?
Stephanie, I'll jump in. Easy to be thinking. Yeah, I think I've probably answered it already, but, you know, to say it in a different way, it's easy for us to, you know, sit back and be comfortable with whatever the current state of being we're in is, right? But it's through that choice of sort of embarking on something like this, wading through the discomfort, you know, discovering opportunities, building connections, that you start to feel a little less anxious and a little more sure. And before you know it, you know, your outlook on what you thought you were concerned about is a little less daunting. You know, I'm more sure now than I sort of ever have been of what I'm capable of. Yeah, I say do it. Go for it. Sign up.
Yeah, I mirror exactly what you said. Sign up. It is yeah, it is really, really important in your life. More than I ever thought.
Thank you. And I see another question in the chat about were there courses you wanted to include in your schedule that just didn't fit? And how did you narrow your top courses and topic, or did it evolve over time?
Well, you have to take those core courses. And for me, I wanted to get those core courses off my belt right away because I thought they would be important to whatever the future was. And again, those core courses were in that nice document. I think research methodology was an important one for me. And then I picked it around my schedule. I looked at, okay, what might apply to this topic I was interested in. And really, I didn't see any, quite frankly, that was really specific to what I was wanting to do, but would have ancillary type of offerings. So I just had mine fit into my schedule so I could get to that point where I was going to do my own research and my own reading. Yeah, so it evolved.
Cool. Yeah, I think, this is probably the main reason why I did the course-based instead of the research or the thesis was there were a lot of courses that I wanted to take. And so doing the course-based let me squeeze in a couple extra courses that I just wanted to get, right? Like, there was one, I think it was social marketing that, didn't quite fit anywhere in the program, but it was something I didn't want to miss. And so, it's things like that, Willem and the program associate will help you figure out and navigate. Yeah, not sure that answers the question. I think sort of, to expand a bit on that, I mentioned the documentary I was doing while doing the program. And interestingly, I was actually taking an environmental communications course while filming. I was, in the mountains, filming, baby fawns being born. And I was literally taking an environmental communications course, writing it from the tent one weekend. And it was neat to, directly be putting into practice exactly what you're learning. So yeah, it was a very, very cool experience.
I learned that I really love learning. I didn't know that about myself. And I think that's one of the biggest learnings I had was how much I crave it and need it. And even though my program's over, I'm still reading journal articles, things that I find interesting. I go and source that out and see what are the latest thought leaders thinking about X.
I love that. Thank you so much. I'm just looking at the chat. Yeah, everybody is very impressed with the conversation. Thank you. And you're welcome to stay on. I'll just take a few minutes to maybe review some admission pieces, answer any questions. So Christopher and Stephanie, thank you again. That was wonderful. I had some goosebumps a few times. I'm feeling really inspired by both your stories and can't thank you enough for sharing. Yeah, and if you want to answer some more questions in the chat or stay with us, or if you have to go with your day, I totally understand. Oh, I see a question here. Are either of you considering pursuing a doctorate degree one day? Fantastic. Yeah, you can answer in the chat, or Christopher, if you want to use your mic. Yeah.
I never thought I would do a master's. I, don't think I'll be doing a PhD, but you never know.
That's the beauty. We never know. Exactly. We stay curious and open. Love that. We just reshare my screen here.
Sorry, Nancy, there was one question I think you skipped over, and I just want to address that one because somebody was asking if they completed a course base, can they apply for further education like a PhD? So if you're thinking of doing a doctoral degree, I strongly recommend thinking about the research option. And there are a couple to choose from, but I would strongly suggest considering a thesis if you are thinking of doing a PhD. It's not mandatory, and it depends on the receiving university. So some universities will require it, others won't. But we can talk about that if, when you get into the program, we can have a conversation about the best pathway in for you. So I just thought I'd throw that out there so we didn't lose that question.
Thank you so much. No, that's fantastic. And let's continue with how to apply. And this is all the information you can find on the website. As I think Stephanie and Christopher mentioned, it's quite easy to apply. So you find that apply button on the website, railroads.ca, and then we listed all the steps for you. So you can just follow the steps, and I'll just review that in a few slides. But what we do really well at Railroads is different types of admission. So we have the standard admission and the flexible one. So the standard would be you have done a 4-year undergrad degree in a related field, and there's more information on the website about what means related field, and be pretty broad for programs such as MAIS. And we ask a GPA of B+, which is 3.33. And normally a minimum of 3 years of professional experience. And the reason why, as you heard today, is that in our cohort or in our courses, we have people with experience. So having that kind of background of education and experience is one door to enter Railroads. But if you're not meeting that requirement, do not worry. We have what we call flexible admission. And I think this is what Stephanie was mentioning. It's like, maybe you don't have an undergrad, but you have tons of experience and volunteering and things like that, and you're interested. So we have a spot for you based on the flexible admission. And when you apply, this is not something you have to check. It's not a little thing you check, like I want flexible or standard. Do not worry. That will be the admission advisor looking at your file, looking at your documents and letting you know. So it's really built based on your skills, knowledge, and background. As we mentioned, this is a graduate program. So of course you need kind of build your case about what you have done in the past that will make you a good candidate, a qualified candidate. So we have way more details on the website about it, but flexible admission can be that kind of, more open door for most of us, most people coming to Railroads. And I like the last paragraph there about people will move between cohorts. As you heard today, it's not a program that you start from point A to Z. So you will take different courses, you'll meet different instructors and move between schools. So that takes some comfort with that, almost comfort with not uncertainty, but to be flexible for sure, and that builds skills as well. So I think we heard that today. So that's something we're looking for into the candidate. And this is something you should reflect on when you write down your personal statement, as we see here. So I'll check the question in a minute. But again, when you apply, you will pay a small fee of $131.39. So that will start your online application. And then you will start submitting your documents. And when I talk about this personal statement of intent, I think, Christopher, we said cover letter, it's all the same thing. But this is where I really encourage you to go on the website and look at the requirements for the program, look at the main topics and courses, so you can really build your statement based on what you have done around it. And the personal statement is always I know for me at least, it was really a moment of like, okay, I need to sit down, look at my strength, look at what I've done even years ago, and I'll bring that together on a few pages, maybe 1 or 2 pages, to convince kind of the admission advisor of who you are. Just tell your story. And on that statement, it's important to know that if you had kind of bad grades, I'm not sure if that's the correct word, but if something happened in your past post-secondary studies, you can mention it. You can say, yeah, I struggle for X, Y, Z reason, and that's fine. So it's really your opportunity to share with us what happened and again, where you want to go next. And the official transcript, that might be something too that stops you, because you'll be like, oh, I have to go back to all those institutions. But please do not worry, take it one step at a time, because transcript, all institutions, they know how to do that, and they will share your transcript from their institution to our institution. And now we have even a new system at Railroad called go.rru, and you can upload documents on your own as well. So there's newest ways to do things, and we really wanted to keep it simple for you. And a detailed resume, as we do a little bit when we apply for a job, we can work on the resume, but really on this one, we want to see who you are, so you can add work, education, and volunteering experience, and really showcase what you have been doing. And 2 letters of reference, it always depends. Look on the website again. We often say 1 academic, 1 professional letter. And my recommendation would be you write down your personal statement, then you share it with your referees so they can see why you want to apply, and then they will write down their letters and send them our way. And applicant must work directly with the College of Interdisciplinary Studies, as we said a few times, to design a program schedule that identify courses to be taken as part of the program. So of course, we don't leave you alone there trying to build your schedule. We work with you throughout the process. And key dates, I know some people message me in private saying, when can I join? So the next intake is September 5th, 2023. So it's already in 6 months with a deadline application of June 5th of the same year. And something that is beautiful too at Railroads, we do admission on a daily basis. So you don't have to wait June to apply. You can already apply today and you will be assessed as we go. So we don't wait the deadline. And if you need more time or you're unsure if September is a good fit, you can always wait for January 2024. And we have 2 intakes like this every year. So there's always like new people coming into the program. And services available to you when you join as a student at Railroad. We have tons of services for you, but as a prospect, I really encourage you to visit the financial resources we have on the website. We're a small institution. We don't have as much grants maybe and loans as others, but we really have an amazing team that will take the time to dig in with you what internal, external funding you can get, because we understand that going back to school, the financial part is very important. So please visit that website and meet with the team there. Same thing with enrollment services. We have run that today, sharing links with us, but please take advantage of talking with the team, because they can do a Zoom meeting, they can connect you with maybe one of the speakers today to really get that sense of, is it a good program for you? And maybe you're considering another master at Railroad, so you can kind of chat it through and better understand if that meets your need, because we really want everyone to be successful in the program. So thank you for joining us. I always like to share a picture of the peacocks that maybe some of you have seen on campus. We have quite a lot of peacock, maybe 50 now on campus. So thank you again, and I'll stop sharing to answer a few more questions. And again, Joe, Christopher, Stephanie, thank you so much. And thank you to all my colleagues behind the scene too, helping me with the chat. That's fantastic. We'll share the recording with you shortly. Thank you, Joe. Anything to add here?
I don't have anything else to add. I think that was fantastic. And thanks so much to Stephanie and Christopher. That was an awesome exploration of what you had spent the last couple of years, or not last couple of years, a while ago now, spending your time doing. And thank you everybody else for attending. Great. If you have any questions, please get in touch with us. We're all very happy to see you.